Hey, it's Monday, October the 7th at 7 p.m. Welcome to the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe, our council meeting, our first one for the month of October, and welcome to those of you in the gallery. Nice to see some people here tonight for a change. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. You've had a chance to look at the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Counselor Kingma, seconded by Counselor McKinnon, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, you've also had time to read the minutes of the previous meeting from September the 16th. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay, seeing none, we have a recommendation that the minutes of the Adelaide Metcalfe Council held on September the 16th, 2024 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Nordoff, seconded by Counselor McKinnon, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, next up on our agenda is the Two Hill Drain Consideration Meeting. We have a recommendation that the Drainage Consideration Meeting to review the engineer's report for the Two Hill Drain 2024 be opened at 7:01 p.m. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Nordoff, seconded by Counselor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, at this time, I'll hand the meeting over to our drainage expert, Andrew Neely at the township here, and he's on Zoom, I believe. Are you there, Andrew? Okay, I think, yeah, so George is here. You're from Spreets, right? Yeah, yeah. So George is here from Spreets and he's probably the bigger expert, so we'll let him take a crack. So, yeah, he's not here to defend himself, so he's in trouble. Okay, George, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are here tonight for the consideration meeting of the Two Hill Drain. This was a Section 4 petition drain and a Section 78 request for improvement of existing drain. So we had two branches here called the Sanders branch and the South branch here, which are new tiles to serve areas that were previously not served. And then there's some improvements to the existing main drain closed, main drain open, and the Brigham branch. In total here, we have a little over a kilometer of tile here. I'm just trying to figure out, I think it was around 1,100 meters of tile that's being replaced. The existing drain was a kind of a mixed match. It was installed in 1967 and it had kind of an odd standard compared to what we would see at that time. Some portions were quite large for the time, but a lot of portions were under half an inch or close to half an inch of design standard. So our modern standard recommended by the Ministry of Food and Ag is 1.5 inches. So this proposal brings the drain up to 1.5 inch standard, meaning the design of this drain can handle 1.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. That's not all storms, but that is the current OMAFRA standard. We've also supplemented in what's called water and sediment control basins in this. So we're building strategic berms along the properties that don't affect the working of the land, but they allow for better control of that water, meaning quite a bit larger storms at 1.5 inches will be captured in these berms and then released down that tile. That helps a lot with, loss of topsoil, erosion of the land, continues to keep these parcels nice, workable, and you lose less nutrients. So there's quite a bit of demand for this recently. It's a little bit more responsibility with their soil. So that's been included in the proposal as well. There is 2 bores here, and there was also an Enbridge pipeline crossing. We tried for a very long time to get a permit to excavate across those pipelines unsuccessfully. Eventually, we got a hydrovac permit. However, we couldn't get in the fields with a hydrovac, so we ended up hand digging these pipelines up by hand. It was the only way we could keep this moving forward. They will need to get a final permit too for construction, but we have been reviewing it with them. So we have essentially an agreement on how we're going to cross those Enbridge pipelines. So that led to a bit of delay on this project, unfortunately. But like I said, by hand digging it eventually, we did get across that obstacle. Other than that, we have an enclosure on this project as well. There's approximately about 125 meters requested to be enclosed. We have a permit from both the CA and the Department of Fisheries Ocean to enclose that. So that has all the approvals necessary to proceed to construction. So the total estimated cost of this project is approximately $393,000. We did have a preliminary meeting to review this with the owners. They were presented the option of replacement or trying to twin the existing 1967 tile to save what we could. It was deemed by the owners that it would be better to replace the whole thing so we have a brand new drain and we're not in here doing maintenance in 10 or 20 years. There is a little bit on the upstream of the Brigham branch, which will still be the old 1967 tile, but it is larger in capacity than some of the other branches. And if there's any questions, I'd welcome them now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from council? And is there anyone in the gallery that has any questions? You're okay? No? Okay, seeing no questions then, we have a recommendation that the engineer's report dated August 27th, 2024 for drainage works on the Two Hill Drain under Section 4 and 78 of the Drainage Act be considered and provisionally adopted as presented by the drainage engineer. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next up, we have a recommendation that the drainage consideration meeting to review the engineer's report for the Two Hill Drain be closed at 7:06 PM. Could I have a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks for coming, George. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is for under correspondence, the upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. Please take note that the next council meeting will be moved to the Tuesday, not the Monday, on October 22nd at 7 PM because there's a conflicting event that evening on the Monday night. And it's actually not the night, it's during the day, and those in attendance won't be able to get back to the township. They'll be out of in the Toronto area at a meeting, so that won't work. Excuse me. After that, then the next regular council meeting is back on the Monday on November the 4th at 7 PM. Registration is now open for the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, also known as the Roma Conference. It's in January from the 19th to the 21st, and that's 2025 already. So reach out to Mike Barnier if you're interested in attending. Recommended readings, CC number 1, Blue Water Recycling Association, the Board of Director meeting highlights, September 19th, 2024. Not to put you on the spot, Councillor King, was there anything that you want to highlight or speak to?
Thank you, through the mayor to council. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in a previous report, but the province had formed a working group to investigate the merits of a deposit return system on non-alcoholic beverage containers. And all of a sudden on July 4th, they pulled out the rug from under that investigation. So we won't be getting our 10 cents per plastic bottle that we return. So there's a lot of speculation as to what motivated it, but publicly, the province is saying that the cost to implement that system was quite high, and that's why it was abandoned.
Yeah, thank you. I know like in other like Nova Scotia, for example, when you do buy a beverage at the convenience store, if it is 10 cents, you're paying the 10 cents. So I don't know if that gives them cost recovery. I highly doubt it, but it must be subsidized to some extent. So anyway, well, interesting. There's always changes, right? Next up, CC number 2, Middlesex London Health Unit, the Board of Health meeting summary from September the 19th, 2024. CC number 3, Middlesex County Council highlights from September 24th. CC number 4, the Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Optimus Kerwood Park Washroom. Sorry, did you want to say something on CC 3?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I jumped ahead
The
there.
county report was a little interesting. I thought the procurement regime that's being proposed might be of interest to our township. I don't know if we'll actually avail ourselves of that new process, but if they could give us an information type package on what the plans are at the county level I think we might be interested in that.
Yeah, and just to further add to that, one of the things that they recognized during the presentation, if you saw it, there was an example given where I think it was a pickup truck, but I stand corrected if that wasn't what it was. Some piece of equipment where they used the model sort of as an experiment, and then they found out it was going to be $20,000 more to buy that by going through their department. So, when you hear that, that's why participation, I don't think is mandatory, but I think there could be some benefits, but clearly if we're able to, I don't mind saying this publicly, is every year we seem to be first to the gate when it comes to aggregates. Your team, you do a great job, Coulter, getting us out front and securing favorable pricing. So unless the economies of scale are just so rich that we benefit by going through the county, we're doing pretty good here right now in that lane. So, and that's one of our biggest expenses. So, yeah, and do you want to say something too?
Yeah, and not on just about the economies of scale that could be realized through cooperative procurement, but they're also, so we've started to dip a toe into the county's procurement service offering. We've been talking about it for a couple of years from an administrative perspective. Josh is their manager of procurement, I believe, who's helping us look at our procurement bylaw and updating it so that we can get some more tools involved. I don't think we need to change the thresholds of when certain tools kick in. So an RFQ versus an RFP, for example, those thresholds seem to work very well for the township and what we tend to procure year over year. So Josh is going to help us with that procurement bylaw update. It's been sitting on my desk for quite some time, and now I get to kind of move the football on it with Josh's support. So he's also going to help us draft a municipal engineering services RFP that we'll release hopefully in the next month or two. And that'll help us with our drainage procurement for general engineering questions, roads, transportation. Just give us a firm that we could lean on when we need engineering support rather than having to go through a procurement cycle every time. So there's absolute benefit in a shared service for procurement based services. We will have to be careful about when we join a larger group in terms of economies of scale, because there might be a balance where if we're the first out, the rest of the folks are actually our competition, to the mayor's point. So there will be a balance there for sure, and we'll have to test it.
Good discussion. Okay, CC number 4, we got a letter from the Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Optimist Club regarding their input onto park improvements, modifications, etc. So we'll probably kick that over to our budget committee to see if there are some of the things that can be approved upon, what the budget impact would look like for that. Under action required, CC number 5, there's a resolution from the city of Kitchener asking for support regarding rent evictions and safe and adequate housing. CC number 6, a resolution request from the municipality of Tweed, Canada Community Building Funds. Councillor Kingma.
I think I'd like us to support this one. The feds have basically ended their ICIP program, so I think we should be able to get matching funds through AMO. The CBBF agreement should allow the feds to give municipalities some assistance.
Okay, anybody else want to support that? Okay, CC number 7, Public Health Sudbury and District request to support a resolution on government regulations of nicotine pouches. CC number 8, a resolution request from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus regarding roadside zoo legislation. CC number 8, also from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, resolution in reference to the blue box transition. Councillor Kingma.
I'd like us to try to support this one. I know we defeated a resolution a month ago, which was basically identical to this one. There are costs that are likely to be incurred by our municipality if the province doesn't require producers of recyclables to pay the costs of collection from institutions and commercial buildings and industrial sites. So because there's an implied cost coming to us, I think we should ask the province to close that loophole.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to support that? Okay. All right, then, could I have a motion that council receive and file correspondence items CC number 1 all the way through to CC number 8 inclusive? And then actually it should be CC number 9, the last one, right? CC number 9. Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next up on the agenda is the 2025 budget survey results, and I'll turn it over to our treasurer, Johnny Pereira.
Thank you, Mayor Clerk. Through to council. As part of the annual budget process, staff launched a budget survey to obtain feedback from the community, which will be used as part of the 2025 budget. The budget survey was developed and advertised on the township website, social media, and the final tax bill newsletter. The survey was open from August 1st to September the 6th. We did receive 46 responses this year, which is up from 25 in 2023 and 33 in 2022. The survey does represent a small sample size or small sample of the population, but does provide some valuable feedback from those who participated. There are a number of stats included in the report here, in addition to some of the open-ended questions or the comments to those questions. Couple tidbits there. 60% of respondents did select digital methods as a preferred way of communication. So that was a change from the prior year. And 65% of respondents felt the current methods of communication were sufficient. 84% thought these services they received for their tax dollars were either fair, good, or excellent. And 60% of respondents would like to increase taxes to maintain services at the current service levels. So looking at inflationary increases. 36% of respondents felt that funding infrastructure should be a top priority for the township, while 27% are supportive but would like to cap annual increases to 1%. There were a number of positive year-over-year trends when looking at various service areas, such as customer service, roads, winter maintenance, and Kerwood Park. An average of 85% of respondents felt that service levels across the identified operating units should be maintained in 2025. As mentioned, the responses to the open-ended questions are included in the report there. The survey results have been distributed to managers to consider in working on their 2025 budget, but they'll be spoken to during the budget presentation and during the working group as well. The recommendation is to receive the report for information, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Johnny at this time? Okay, seeing none, then we have a recommendation that the 2025 budget survey results report be received for information. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, you're up again here, Johnny, for the municipal drain debenture, the Fuller Harris one.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the council. Fairly routine report just outlining a debenture request following the township's municipal drain assessment billing, payment, and debenture policy. This type of debenture is available for property owners to borrow from the township for municipal construction drain projects, whereas the province's tile loan program is for personal tiling work, which we've seen come forward earlier this year. So for the municipal drain, staff received 2 written requests to debenture drain invoices for the Fuller Harris drain construction project. A total of $21,302.10 is being requested to debenture over a term of 5 years at 4.95%. There is a $1 typo in the report versus the bylaw, just an FYI. So as far as debenture payments, those would be collected annually through property taxes. Additional details are included within the report, but happy to answer any questions. The recommendation is to approve the report and bylaw as presented.
Okay, any questions? Okay, seeing none, then we have a recommendation that the proposed Fuller Harris Municipal Drainage Debenture of $21,301.10 to Daniel and Jennifer Parker of Concession 3, South part of Lot 12 and Concession 3, West part of Lot 13, for a term of 5 years at 4.95% interest be approved. Moved by Counselor McKinnon, seconded by Counselor Kingma. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is our legislative clerk, Michael Barnier, regarding 2025 council meeting calendar.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. To members of council, super straightforward report, just outlining the dates for council dates, proposed dates for next year. We always try to avoid, we have one meeting in the summer months and bookended at January as well, just to ensure public participation is available. Generally, it's always on a Monday, except if there's a holiday. There are a few in there that get moved to Tuesday, as you see in the report. And there is, at the request of Councilor Kigma, there is a very nice color calendar at the end. You can put on your fridge there. So I don't know if there's any questions, be happy to answer them, but pretty straightforward. If there's any conflicts that you know of, we'll deal with them.
Yeah, and the other thing, if anybody knows they're going to be away, the sooner we know, the better, because if we don't have quorum, I mean, we have to bump the meeting. So I know some of that stuff you can't plan on just yet, but if you are, then yeah. So, okay. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, and if anybody wins a trip or anything, let me know. So, I know, I'm kidding. Okay, so then we have a recommendation that council approve the proposed council meeting schedule for 2025 as presented at this time. Moved by Councilor Nordoff, seconded by Councilor Brody, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, I'll turn this section over to our CAO, Morgan Calvert, regarding Environment and Sustainability Working Group.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the rest of council. This is really just a bit of a heads up report on some things that are happening at the administrative level. North Middlesex has approached a number of communities adjacent to them about an environment and sustainability work group where we'll look at opportunities to bring some green products or services to the township. We're looking at some priority areas, things that make sense across all communities where we all receive the same benefit for the output or the work. There will be times where there's some projects that come across the group that might not make sense for Adelaide Metcalfe, and that's where we just step back and let things roll. But really, this report's just to kind of gauge council's interest in staff further exploring this opportunity. There are a couple of things on my work plan that council's asked me to take a look at that would work well with this group, from looking at our landfill, looking at garbage and recycling, diversion and collection types of efforts. I understand there's even opportunities for insurance premiums to be lowered through certain environmental services that communities can put in place. So really, we're just in the really early days. The group has drafted a draft terms of reference that we are going to bring to each of our communities at different times, of course, to just get some buy-in from our councils regarding our participation in a work group like this. The other note I'd like to quickly make is we had a presentation from Try Recycling a couple of weeks ago where they've offered an opportunity for elected officials and senior staff to tour their facilities. So I think Mr. Barnier will be sending out some dates and times to council and staff where we'll try to solicit your participation. In saying all that, happy to answer any questions that you might have or recommendations to receive the report for information.
Okay, thanks, Morgan. Any questions, comments? Counselor Kingma?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Morgan. How much discussion has been placed on how to finance the efforts of this group?
No, it's a great question, Counselor. One of the things that Mike and I have brought to that table is making sure that the work group is effectively resourced. Because it's always a challenge to get a bunch of volunteers to work commonly towards a thing without much financial input. So if there's a project or something that needs to happen that requires additional resources beyond the capabilities of that work group, we bring it back to council. Right now, we haven't really identified anything that would require additional finances beyond hopefully partnering with a college or university to undertake some of the data or the information gathering that we would need to actually propose a collective effort on a thing that might require some money. So right now it's just left at the staff volunteer time essentially or work time. And if anything comes back that we need additional money or resources for, it would be a council decision at that time whether or not to participate.
Yeah, and if I might add, I do this and I know some of the other people around the Horseshoe do this, and not to burden Johnny's department, but if you're in any website in Canada and looking around and you see where there looks like there's an opportunity for some grant money for research or anything like that, please bring it to my attention if you see it, and I wouldn't dump it on you and your team, Johnny, but it might be something we could look at for the working group, because maybe that's a financial piece that, and if you partner with Research at Western, they're always looking for opportunities too, so, yeah, okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we have a recommendation that council receive the Environment and Sustainability Working Group report for information, and that council support staff in further exploring Adelaide Metcalfe's participation in the Environmental and Sustainability Working Group. Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Brody, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Is there any other business? Councillor Kingma.
Coulter's quiet. So through the mayor, well, yeah, I saw Mullaferry. It looks good. I was gonna ask about the lighting at the Ball and Diamond. Is it still gonna happen this month or do we have to wait?
Actually, Councillor Kingma, the lighting is still on target to start at the end of the month. We are actually just waiting for the poles to arrive. They're coming out of the States. They're concrete poles, so that was our biggest challenge thus far. But as stated before, we wanted to start in October, and we're a couple of weeks out, and I think we're gonna make it happen. So looking forward to it.
And hopefully the weather holds. Yeah. Councillor McKinnon.
Through you to likely Johnny. Where are we in regards to the drainage superintendent? We're using Andrew Neely for a certain time that, or I'm sorry, it should have been to you, Morgan. Forgive my
That's
fog brain.
quite all right, Councillor McKinnon. So right now we're just doing some information gathering on the various options that we might have. I had a meeting with a couple of neighboring CAOs to understand what capacity or opportunities there might be there to work together. I have some questions out to some firms, for example, that do drainage things from start to finish. We've met with some neighboring municipalities to understand what that firm-based model looks like and what internal resource impacts there might be. So essentially, I'm aiming to have that report to council probably the second meeting in November. We've been working closely with Southwest Middlesex too. They understand that these changes take time, and we'll just work through a solution. So.
Any other business? Councillor Kingma?
Yeah, through the mayor to Morgan, I was just gonna ask if you were planning to attend the fall workshop for OMA.
The easiest answer is yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing none, then we will move into our closed session. We have a recommendation that a council appoint Morgan Calvert, our CAO, as clerk for the purpose of recording minutes and fulfilling all duties required of the clerk for the duration of the meeting. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Brody, seconded by Counselor Nordoff. All in favor? And that's carried. So we will now adjourn to our closed session.
No. Yeah, the second part of that recommendation.
Where is it? Oh, sorry. The council adjourned to closed session at 7:31 PM pursuant to section 2392 of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss the following matters. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Specifically, we'll be looking at the compensation review. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Kingma, seconded by Counselor Brody, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. So we will now go into closed. And the camera will turn off.